difference a weekend makes. My friends, last week I was succumbing to the Omega variant of COVID, and now it's Monday, and man, wouldn't you know it, prayers work, my immune system works, basic, natural, no medicalized drugs, no industrially made drugs, and hey, here it is, by God's grace. You know, there was even one Satanist who was telling me, Jarrin, you better not get selfish and take a hospital bed. And I was thinking about that, and I go, I'm not gonna go to the hospital. I'm gonna beat this thing using God's naturally given immune system to me, the fact that I'm healthy, generally take care of myself, and I followed a protocol that worked. 100% worked. We're still 4 days into it, and so I'm going to keep going for another week or something like that, just to make sure it's done. I have a remnant cough, and that's it. Hey friends, I'm Jarrin Jackson. I love America. I am a Bible-believing Christian, constitutional defending, patriotic Rush Baby Lynn multiple time endorsed Trump supporter. This is the death, the burial, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It is the power to salvation, the only way to go to heaven. Do not reject Jesus. You think about all this chaos, you think this is bad, you think the doubt and the fear and the uncertainty and the tumultuous setting of things is bad. Wait until God comes back. It is a fearful thing to fall in the hands of a living God. I think we're close, but I don't, the way that I read things, I think we're imminently close. But with that, we got Afghanistan to talk about today. The implications, the tactical level implications, the tragedy, the obvious outcome of an Islamic society that is allowed to become Islamic. We'll talk about the ramifications militarily, culturally, economically, and all the other things. I even want to talk about biblically. I want to talk about something that has results in the Bible with respect to prophecy moving forward and whatnot. But before we get to that, we do have some updates. I want to take a quick admin note and just finish the COVID log from the Omega variant. I got COVID last week from my wife. Started exhibiting and experiencing symptoms on Thursday. Today is Monday. What's that? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday? 5 days? And I was working outside all day today. I was working outside yesterday. God is good. And God gives us immune systems that fight off viruses. You augment them with natural stuff. Now, there's a lot of people that were saying, take ivermectin, take hydroxychloroquine, take all this stuff. And I said, you know what? I don't doubt that. It's not that I don't trust those people. It's not that I don't want to take Regeneron and all those other methods. But because I had the Omega variant, which at this point we can conclusively say the Omega variant kills 0% of people that get it. So now you can go on and you can say every single person who's ever got the Omega variant of COVID has never died. True, fact, science. There you go. So with that, if I make myself laugh, I'm going to cough. That's the remnant of the Omega. You understand that what I wanted to do was I used myself as a guinea pig. I used myself to say, if I'm really sick with this, I'm not going to get crazy, nor am I going to get scared. I'm going to treat it just like someone would treat it if they didn't have access to medicine or health insurance or anything else. With God's immune system that he gave me, and with the sun, and with broccoli, and water, and I mean, it's just, I'm not going to overreact, and after seeing this thing firsthand and getting it all up in my body, never again. Never again, folks. We're not going to do that. I have a fancy thing. Forgive me if I do things wrong, but I have a slide deck or a stream deck that allows me to do buttons like this thing. I don't know if I can show it to you. This thing right here, it shows buttons on how to do stuff. So like if I do this, watch this. If I push this button right here, watch. That's pretty cool. If I push this button right here, but my favorite is if I push this button. What you want? What you gonna do? Hey, dip-it-bit-dip-a-doo. Daddy, what you gonna do? See, I gotta listen to it. I gotta listen. Hold on. Bad boys. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys. You know, I should probably do one of those. And so you just push the button. So hopefully this streamlines it a lot better. I even have a surprise where I'm going to shamelessly push self-promotional things, and hopefully it doesn't interrupt the live stream. We're gonna test some things out today, so I ask your patience. Me getting sick took me out of working outside around the homestead. So I had more time this weekend to like sit down, think about the Live Local field manual, think about how to do things more here. So I was productive in the office, even though I wasn't productive outside. So I appreciate that. Let's roll the rock and let's get into our updates. You need to beware. You need to be leery of all the people who say that they're doctors. Remember, you're in a spiritual war, in the eyes, in the ears, for the dominating the key terrain, for the soul. The prize is the soul. Satan will hold this key terrain by influencing through your eyes and influencing through your ears. As a result of this, last week, I spoofed Stu Peters. I love Stu Peters. Truth teller, Christian, patriot, good dude. People are like, do you not like Stu Peters? No, I like sarcasm. Whenever I played the Dr. Lloyd videos, that was my son, which I thought was just dripping with sarcasm and snark and humor, but some people thought I was taking a shot at Stu Peters. I was not taking a shot at Stu Peters. I was trying to come alongside him and laugh at the fact that people get paid to present themselves as doctors on TikTok. And then I found a video of a person who's an actress presenting herself as a doctor on TikTok. Watch this.
Hi, my name is Dr. Pia Myers. I'm the director of the pediatric ER here at NCH. I'm here today to tell you what is happening in our community and our children of our community. I work as a clinician in the ER.
Do you? Let's just check it out. Oh, look. Yeah, sure. The picture checks out. Cool. Now, y'all know I don't stop just there. How many times has this site been updated, I wonder? Once? The day of? Now, hold on. Wait a minute. What about this site? Y'all ain't ready for this. Oh! It's only been updated twice! The day before and 2 days after. I mean, if you're gonna use actors, at least get good ones.
To encourage safety. I'm getting all emotional here for a second. Okay. Oh, I'm getting all like, oh.
You're doing great.
Oy. I'm trying to encourage everybody to please take this Delta variant very seriously due to the transmissibility. It is incredibly contagious, and our children are getting sick. I can't do this.
She should get a golden raspberry for that performance.
Yeah, so that's a fake doctor, an actress, portraying herself as a doctor, and people would believe that because she's wearing a white lab coat, and people say that she's a doctor, and they even went to make a false website. You can't believe what you see, or can you? Watch this personal testimony, also on TikTok, of someone volunteering personal private health information as a direct result of, as they say, their testimony, the Daisy. Watch this.
This is not a video I want to make, and it's kind of hard to make because as I'm watching myself, I see what I'm going to say, which is I have been diagnosed with Bell's palsy, which is paralysis on one side of the face. For me, it's this side here, the left, obviously. So I got it about 2 weeks after getting my vaccine. And I had a rough go with the vaccine. And I guess still am. But I have to say that I would do it again because it's what we have to do to see people. So, I don't know why I'm making this video, but here's my work smile.
Yeah, I know why you're making the video. You're making the video because you have such cognitive dissonance. That is being you have personal physical ailments as a response, and it's a tragedy, as a response of your medical decision that you didn't make from an informed position, but you made from the veneer of a moralistic preening behind people that were urging you to do something that they themselves would not do. No science, no medicine to back these things up. Now, I want to say one thing because I'm going to get into an article real fast. I want to read for you Psalm chapter 51, verse 16. Psalm 51:16. This is from the ESV. Psalm 51:16 says, "For you," talking to God, "for you will not delight in sacrifice, or I would give it. You will not be pleased with a burnt offering." Verse 17, "The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, O God, you will not despise." This is King David writing Psalm 51, one of the most, in my view, one of the most powerful psalms in all of Scripture. He had sex with a guy's wife, impregnated her. He was not out. King David was not out at the front fighting and defending, Israel and fighting God's enemies like he should have been, like he used to be doing. He put himself in a position where he saw a naked chick, brought her over, had sex with her, got her pregnant, and then he brought the woman's husband to her. Hopefully they would do stuff so that she would get pregnant. When the husband said, "I can't have sex with my wife because I'm not with my guys," he sent Uriah, the husband, he sent Uriah off to get killed at the battlefield. So David committed adultery, was shirking his duties as king, fighting with his men and defending Israel, and then murdered the husband. And then he's writing Psalm 51 with this still on his mind years later. So he's just broken that he did this really evil thing. But yet the Bible still calls David a man after God's own heart because he always sought God. He always sought the face of God. This scripture that I read you, God doesn't want sacrifice. It's so sad that that woman right there with the half face, I don't know if that's going to be permanent, but she's sacrificing. What is she sacrificing for? And what is the idea? Who is responsible for giving her the moral configuration that she should be sacrificing for something that doesn't kill 99.997% of people? It's just like that. That's the... If you don't begin your worldview with the Bible, you're gonna begin it with something else, and it's gonna be arbitrary. It's gonna be inconsistent, and moving forward, I argue it's going to become increasingly predatory and compulsory and coercive against your conscience, against whatever kind of values or traditions or worldview that you have as substrata that build up and prop up your understanding of the world. These godless commies are going to subvert everything. And one of the things that they've done is communicated the fact that people need to sacrifice. Moreover, here's an article from The Atlantic. One of my friends from West Point on Facebook posted this today. This is from The Atlantic. Vaccine refusers risk compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue. After the horrors that healthcare workers have endured during the pandemic, many are struggling to sympathize with people who won't protect themselves. You have to understand that this is a false premise. This is not what's happening. What's not happening is people aren't protecting themselves. What's happening is that people are making informed medical decisions that disagree with what people conclude or what people automatically agree with from the doctors. And you can't say, well, Jarrin, you're not a doctor because, one, I got a quantum PhD in stuffology from Harvard. And two, as 100% of the test cases for the Omega variant in COVID, having survived the most deadliest variant of COVID, I speak from a universally unique position to say that you don't need to take someone's experimental gene editing therapy. You just need to take care of yourself, pray, and recognize that God's going to be the one that's in charge because he is. Compassion fatigue. Let me finish that. Pull quote. Here's some subjective moralizing science. The main reason the pandemic in the United States is not over is because people are not getting vaccinated. False. According to CNBC, a study shows that 74% of people infected in Massachusetts in late July were fully vaccinated. So this Atlantic article is factually, scientifically wrong. Now, Jarrin, you just pointed out, well, that was Boston, Massachusetts. Okay, cool. All right. If 3/4 of people from Boston, Massachusetts, who are getting sick with the new variant of the virus was fully vaccinated, then you can't say from a universal perspective that it's because people who aren't vaccinated aren't getting the vaccine, and so those are the ones getting sick. It's just not true. It's just demonstrably not true. Even if it's only true in that area, that means that there's at least an outlier that disproves the hand wave generic kind of cudgel that everyone's trying to promulgate on people. You can't fit everyone into a box because everyone's not made to be put in boxes. We're image bearers of God. We have unique giftings. We have unique talents and opportunities. We also have immune systems that operate and function and respond on different various levels. You can't just hand wave, these are not the droids you're looking for. This is the COVID that you're, sick of. It's just stupid. People are just so dumb. Let me finish this. Some people may have good reasons for not getting a shot, but most people who refuse vaccination do not seem to be acting based on data or evidence. Again, you see what's happening here. You see what Satan's doing. He's jumping in. He's convinced these people they can jump into the minds of people who don't take the vaccine, and they can understand what the people who don't take the vaccine think, how we make decisions, and then from that, they've extrapolated that from the aggregate of people who haven't taken it, and they've reduced it down to the fact that none of us have made the decision, quote, based on data or evidence. The refusals that we read every day seem more rooted in a general mistrust of the government. You listen to that language? The refusals that we read every day seem, that is a subjective word. It seems to them, it reflects their perception, more rooted in a general mistrust of government. The first thing I think of is, can I not trust the government and have thinking based on data and science? Yes. Another way of saying that is what the government says always corresponding positively and significantly to science and data? Interesting. Mask, no mask, one mask, 4 masks. Do I need to bring up the Fauci blooper clip where he's like saying that it's all true? It's like Fauci roulette. Figure out what health policy we're going to dictate today. These people are not serious thinkers, and because of this, you should not pay any mind. Sadly, there's people like this dude in Australia, and they have godless commies in charge of the government like this dude. Watch this.
No removal of masks to consume alcohol outdoors. So you will no longer be able to remove your mask to drink a cocktail at a pop-up beer garden on a footpath as part of a pub crawl.
Now, he just, is it just me? Or did he come off like he was just condescending? You're not going to have a cocktail when on a footpath or a beer garden. He's just condescending against people choosing to live their life and enjoy, amenities that he himself would not personally do, or that he, from his medical profession and political prestige position, has disdain for. That somehow the activities that the common folk, the dirt cuticled folks, I don't approve of that behavior. So I'm just going to say you can't have a cocktail on the footpath, the beer garden. I gotta love the Australian accent. Here at home, no, not here at home. I want to first examine. This is the Prime Minister from New Zealand. Listen to this.
Do you consider ankle bracelets for people in self-isolation?
Yes.
Whoa, what was that?
Do you consider ankle bracelets for people in self-isolation?
Yes.
She would support ankle bracelets in isolation. I'm about to play a 3-minute video. This was taken over the weekend in Australia. There are curse words in it, so this is your 7-second heads up. But I'm going to let this play unedited. This is exactly what's coming on, and I spent a lot of time this weekend putting content into this Live Local field manual that will address this specific situation, and to do so in a constitutional, morally righteous method of response, because I think that's going to be very important moving forward. Watch this. Remember, language warning. Language warning.
Yep, sure. Is a person who has been infected with COVID-19 and, because of the way that Mustafa Rawawi behaves, may be risk to public health.
Who said that, sorry?
Mate, I've already explained it to you.
All right, have they spoken to me? How can they sit there and say the way I behave? They told me to go get checked. I went and got checked straight away.
Therefore, in accordance with Section 62 of the Act, I make this public health order requiring Mustafa Rawawi to refrain from the following conduct, okay? A, entering or remaining in any public place or any premises other than the Meriton Hotel, 8 Dreyfus Avenue, Zetland, New South Wales 2017, unless permitted by myself, Shanopa Kamari Bag. B, undergo, can't pronounce that word, what is that? Authoring nasal and nasal swab testing for COVID-19 as directed by myself, Shanopa Kamari Bag. The circumstances justifying the making of this order are as follows, okay? 1. I'm satisfied on reasonable grounds that Mustafa Rawawi has been infected with COVID-19, being a disease transmissible via close contact. 2. I'm satisfied that Mustafa Rawawi will not comply with the reasonable advice and direction of clinicians. Okay. 3. There is no other effective way to ensure that the health of the public is not endangered.
Does she know I've got an ankle on, this idiot you're talking about? Do they know that? See how stupid this system is? And I don't want to hear it anymore. Seriously, think about it. I've got 2 girls here, 2 little kids. You want me to drag them out to a fucking hotel room? God knows what's happening in this hotel room, because some dickhead over the phone thinks he knows me, or whoever she is, she knows me. And you know I've got an ankle on, and you know if I breach and leave, they can lock me up, whether it's you.
I have no idea, and I don't know anything about it.
Well, I'm not leaving. Listen.
Yeah.
Much bigger police than both of you tell me I'm not allowed to leave here. And I know the officer on my case is dying to get me back in jail. So I'm sorry, until I get a paper from Eternity or whoever it is, come back with a warrant, do what you have to do. I'm not making it hard on you, but I am not going to jail for you.
It's going to end up one of 2 ways, okay? Either you getting it or you're getting locked up, okay? Arrested, put in a policeman, alright?
Have you got a warrant to come and do
There is
this?
no warrant. There is no warrant.
You need a warrant.
No.
They told you that. Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
You need a warrant to come into my house.
It's New South Wales public order. That's
Okay.
right.
So who do you speak to now about this? About my anklet?
Mate, that's got nothing to do with anything right now, okay?
Really? You obviously haven't dealt with it before?
The public health trumps that.
Does it?
Yeah, that's their order, and they're just like supplying the law.
Okay, that's why my officer came here the other day, that's on my case, and told me I breached because I went to Granville when I went to get a swab test because one of these guys told me to go. And he came to arrest me. So if I didn't tell him I had COVID, I was going to get arrested.
Yeah.
Just so you know who we deal with. Like, I'll be in the hotel room, sitting there, and he'll come and take us.
Like I said again, I need you to comply with this, okay? If you're not going to comply with it, I'm going to arrest you. Alright? So what's it going to be?
No, I'll comply.
Yep, and that's how it goes. That's how it goes. That is Australia. That is a dude with an ankle bracelet being visited at his doorstep with people in medical gowns. And did you hear the woman in the back? By the way, coward, you're in the back while you're trying to take this guy from his Aussies, you never should have given up your firearms. Ever. I will write something that speaks to this. I want to pair something very carefully here, because we are living. So that's Australia, and we need to pray for the Aussies. Basically, just need to pray for everybody in this world right now. There's so much tyranny and godless communism going around. We need to stand on the truth, which is the word of God, preach the gospel in all domains. I would have loved if that dude would have preached the gospel while that godless commie is trying to, take his liberty. And the fact that he's wearing gloves and a mask while touching a trash can seems very sanitary to me. You want to connect this to what's going on here. This was NBC Nightly News on Friday. Potential terror threats, opposition to COVID measures, claims of election fraud, believe Trump can be reinstated, 9/11 anniversary and religious holidays. That is following up this bulletin that was posted August 13. That's 3 days ago. That reads, in part, here's the summary of it. Excuse me. The Secretary of Homeland Security has issued a new national terrorism advisory system bulletin regarding the current heightened threat environment across the United States. The Homeland continues to face a diverse and challenging threat environment leading up to and following the 20th anniversary of September 11, 2001. Attacks as well as religious holidays, we assess, who's the we, could serve as a catalyst for acts of targeted violence. These threats include those posed by domestic terrorists, individuals and groups engaged in grievance-based violence, and those inspired or motivated by foreign terrorists and other malign foreign influences. These actors are increasingly exploiting online forums to influence and spread violent extremist narratives and promote violent activity. Such threats are also exacerbated by impacts on the ongoing global pandemic, including grievances over public health safety measures, over perceived government restrictions. Let me translate this. If you disagree with COVID policies, if you believe that there was election fraud, if you believe those things, then voicing those ideas are considered anathema to the well-being of the government. And from that perspective, that speech, what this DHS document is saying is that speech is going to start to be considered corresponding to any violence that happens. And so if Jarrin goes on platforms and says, well, I believe the election was stolen, then if someone does something in other parts of the country with a MAGA hat, and bad stuff happens with that person in a MAGA hat, DHS will likely conclude that the people who share similar values are in cahoots together, and they need to arrest, they need to snuff them out, they need to silence them. This is why I continue to say, preach the gospel. The gospel is not only protected religious speech, it's not only protected political speech, it's also not violent from a physical perspective. It's deadly from a spiritual perspective. Deadly in the sense that it gives you life, so you don't have to go to hell forever because you're going to repent of your sin and believe the gospel. I looked up, there's different categories of speech in the First Amendment. There's protected speech, there's commercial speech, and then there's categories of unprotected speech. The protected speech, quote, political or ideological speech. The Supreme Court has long considered political and ideological speech to be at the core of the First Amendment, including speech concerning, quote, politics, nationalism, religion, and other matters of opinion. This is West Virginia State Board of Education versus Barnett. This is 1943. Political speech can take other forms beyond the written or spoken word, such as money, symbolic acts. A government regulation that implicates political or ideological speech generally receives strict scrutiny in the courts, whereby the government must show that the law is narrowly tailored to achieve a compelling government interest. So let me reword things. It is my political belief as a citizen and as a honorably discharged, decorated combat veteran of this country that the election results are not truthful at all. Moreover, it is my belief that my liberty is in direct conflict with most public health policies promulgated by doctors and experts telling people that they should lock people down, wear masks, and take mandatory gene-based therapy modifying drugs. That's my political belief. You can't regulate that. Now, godless commies on the social media can, and they probably will, but that's because they hate Jesus and they want to usher in this one world government, and the way they do that is by stamping out speech they disagree with. So until I become big enough to float and trigger the algorithms, they're not going to touch. But whenever I do, yeah, they'll nuke me, which is why you should go to the links in the description below, jarrinjackson.com, give me their email, we can talk on that way. Or you follow me on Telegram and all the other things. The links are in the description. I got a lot of people watching me on the platforms that the godless commies are most in control of. That's bad because I want you to continue watching me, but if they nuke me, they nuke me. The point here is this graphic, they're warning that people like me, most likely people like you, unless you're godless commies in the comment section, that we're enemies of the country. We're enemies of the state. And that's just not so. Factually, we want audits so you know the truth of the election. I don't see why that's I know why that's an issue. But I don't see why you would disparage anybody from wanting the validity and the efficacy of the vote to be public and known, to be verified, because it hasn't been. But moreover, let's say that I'm completely crazy. I'm not. But let's say I'm completely crazy. This is political speech. This is 100% protected. How can you say opposition to COVID measures, claims of election fraud, are somehow potential terror threats? That is... You understand what's happening there. And I wrote this on Telegram, and some people just freaked out. When I write stuff on Telegram about how God only knows the future, I'm writing generally about this type of stuff. Because some gee-whiz wackadoodle smart person, wackadoodle, there you go, Lynn, some smart person at the Department of Homeland Security believes there is a future manifestation where people who believe according to what he is scared of do bad things. And so he is going to believe in that future and write a terror threat warning today so as to prepare the response or justify the punishment or reaction whenever those bad people do the thing that guy is scared of. He's authored a version of future that hasn't happened, probably won't happen unless it's an FBI plant, false flag. And because he's projected this in the future, he brings this to today. And now he's making, from the position of the government and the influence the feds have to flex on people, he's making everyone behave as though that guy's future interpretation or that guy's interpretation of the future is true. That's not only idolatrous, but that is suffocating. You don't have that authority. You don't have the authority to write the future, because you can't. But secondly, just because you believe something's going to happen in the future doesn't mean you get to behave or write policy that conflicts directly with my current present day, exercise of liberty. It's you can't pre-warn people of something that hasn't happened, unjustifiably so as to retroactively posture political speech to be threatening or dangerous. That's deeply un-American. It's satanic, actually, because you're lying, but it's deeply un-American. And if you're a godless commie in the comment section, you have to understand, they're gonna come after you too, man. The people that make fun of me every time. It's like they're gonna come after you too, man. They're gonna come after you. The sad part is, once they get rid of people like me, you ain't gonna have anyone to defend you because you suck. But with that, let's roll the rock and get to the next one. Israel, a couple months ago, look at this. Hey, 80% of their people vaccinated. The cases have dropped to 15 a day. Fast forward. Oh, look at that. Wouldn't you know it? It seems like they had to lock everything back down. This is August 3rd. That was June 1. So just a matter of weeks. Iceland. Here's Iceland. Ooh, look at that. They vaccinated 90% of their population. June 30. Look at that. The government program, with 2 M's and an E, that's how you know they're educated, has been completed. However, Iceland, here we go. That was June 30. Here you go, July 24. So not even a month later, they're going to start locking people down. Gibraltar! You know, that place down there below Spain, right there at the mouth of the Mediterranean meets the Atlantic. Gibraltar has vaccinated the entire The entire adult population in 9 weeks. That's March of 2021. Look at this. August 2021. Fully vaccinated Gibraltar sees 2,500% increase in infections. Science, folks. Science. All right, I want to do, where are we at? Where's my phases? Oh, I got them right here. Boom. Excuse me. I may have to go take a hospital bed. Oh, man. Oh, it's so funny. So many godless commies. Afghanistan. All right. Everyone, not everyone. A lot of people are talking about this. I'm going to try to go quick. I have dealt with most of my emotion on Afghanistan, so I'm not really emotional about the country at this point. I've killed people there, lost friends there, commanded there, spent 2 years of my life in that country. Learned a lot about the Afghan people. I respect them. I think they are resilient. I think they are resourceful. I also think that they are pragmatists. Their culture is Islamic. Their culture is not Christian. Not to say that a Christian culture can't, do bad things. They definitely do. They're sinners. Everyone's a sinner. But they value pragmatism. And by that I mean whatever is allowing them to best survive at that time, that's what they're going to try to optimize. So if I say what I'm saying, because there was one guy that was like, you need to have more emotion, and it's like, dude, I've dealt with that emotion. That's why I don't seem like I come off with emotion. I've dealt with it. It's not good what's happening to the women. It's not good what's happening to the kids. I get upset at the Afghan men because I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Why don't you fight these guys? We gave you all these weapons. We gave you all this stuff. Why aren't you doing anything about it? I get really pissed about Christians getting crucified. It just shows me that I haven't been persecuted for my faith. I don't necessarily want to be persecuted for my faith, but I mean, those people are over there, like they're in it. It's not good. Not good. At the same time, the Taliban was the group that was always popular in Afghanistan. Always. This was an insurgency. And the insurgency had strength because the people supported the insurgents. And if I'm looking at it, America called it an insurgency. Afghans would have called it an invasion. So Afghans, generally speaking, not all of them, I'm not speaking as from a universal perspective, but most Afghans that I spoke to across my 14 different provinces in that country, and the 2 years that I was there, hundreds of conversations with lots of Afghans, they generally wanted Sharia law. Now, that doesn't make sense to a Western mind because you, despite your faith, have marinated in a Christian culture. Thank you, Bible-believing Christian founders, Christopher Columbus, Puritans, building a world based on biblical value that benefits people who hate Jesus and people who love Jesus. It's amazing how much biblical values benefits everybody. But these people who are in Afghanistan, they don't have biblical values. They have Quranic values. The Quran I have here. Piece of crap, trash, the Quran. I crossed out holy because it is not holy. Holy means set apart, and there's nothing set apart about Islam. There's nothing set apart about the Quran. It is satanic, demonic teachings that will lead you to hell. Just like every other religion. Every religion will lead you to hell except Jesus Christ. Repent of your sin, believe the death, the burial, the resurrection of Jesus as your only way to go to heaven, and you will go to heaven. Believe in that plus saying specific number of prayers or giving a specific number of money or working as much as you can work, and then after you've worked, then you benefit from it. Those are religions, Religion is man-made. That goes all the way back to Genesis chapter 4, when Cain and Abel were told by God to give him a sacrifice. Abel gave God his firstborn, his animal, not his firstborn, but the animals. And Cain said, well, I'm going to give you fruits and vegetables. Cain made a religion. Cain thought that it was something he could do to please God. Abel obeyed God because he recognized God as God. So God honored Abel's sacrifice and Abel's offering because Abel feared God, had faith in God, trusted God, loved God. So God likes that. Cain did not fear God, trust God, honor God, love God, and God hates that. God hates your religion, and Islam is a religion that God hates. Surah 3, Ayat 54. So Surah is just the chapter. Ayat is a verse. The Quran is not put in any kind of logical order. It's not chronological. Generally speaking, its big books are up at the front, and they go to the smaller books. So the smaller books, the shorter books, are in the back. The bigger books are up front. Islam has a doctrine called abrogation, where because it was all revealed by one man, unlike the Bible, that was revealed over 1,500 years, 40 different authors, multiple different languages, multiple continents, hundreds of prophecies being fulfilled. I mean, all you got to do is look at Isaiah 45, when God by name says, I'm going to call Cyrus, you are my guy. And Cyrus wasn't even alive for another 200 years. It's like, that's divine. It's divine how that stuff. This crap is just crap. But Surah 3, Ayat 54, so chapter 3, verse 54. And the Jews planned, and Allah is the best of planners. Now you see, this right here is a lie. So this is what it looks like. Come on, camera. This is what it looks like, right? But that word in the Arabic is not planner. It's deceiver. This is saying the Jews were deceivers, and Allah is a deceiver. But Allah is the best of deceivers. It's saying that God lies. The God of Allah, the God of the Quran, lies. Well, if the God of the Quran is the best liar, which is what the Quran says, because it's not planner, the word there is deceiver. It's schemer. Someone who is deceptive in their presentation. It's not planner. It's not planner at all. That's another example of how this book lies. Because when it's translated into English, it doesn't tell you the truth. My point is, because I could rail on Islam all day. I'm not going to do that. I should. Point is that this country, Afghanistan, does not have the same values you and I do. They look at women as property. They look at women, I mean, if we just look up, Surah 2, 223. If I go back in this garbage book, every single time I pick this book up, I just want to, I just feel Satan coming out of it. Surah 2, 223. So this is the second book, 223rd verse. Your wives are a tilth for you, so go into your tilth when you like. And send good beforehand for yourselves, and keep your duty to Allah, and know that you will meet him, and give good news to the believers. Do you know what tilth means? You know what tilth means? You know what the context of that verse is? The Quran, Surah 2, verse 223, presents women as patches of dirt that men are supposed to plow, have sex with. So in the Quran's mind, women are property that you plow. That's it. And you can plow them anytime you want. That's straight from Satan. Straight from Satan. Surah 2:23. Your wives are a tilth for you, so go into your tilth when you like. Whenever you want, go into your tilth and plow her. Islam does not value truth, and it is not loving. So you should not expect truth or love from an Islamic culture. What's happening in Afghanistan is that Joe Biden is a godless commie, And he doesn't care about those people. What I'm still looking out for is if the military-industrial complex is going to keep our soldiers there, keep our Marines there, or if they're going to pull them out. I can war game this out all the time. Either A, the military-industrial complex is in charge, our soldiers stay, and we refight the war. And a lot of the media that's coming out of Afghanistan, talking about the Christians being crucified, which is blood-curdling, talking about the 12-year-old girls and above being arrested and kidnapped and distributed off throughout the country for marriage, because that's what they do. And by the way, Muhammad was 53 years old when he consummated his marriage with his child bride, Aisha. She was 9. He married her when she was 6. He had sex with her when she was 9. That's this religion. This religion is garbage. It's satanic. This whole culture is based in that. That doesn't mean that these people aren't image bearers of God. That doesn't mean they don't need it means they need the gospel. But it means that the way that they've organized their society is completely unlike what we have here in the West, in America. So when we look at Afghanistan, we're not supposed to be looking... I would encourage you not to look at Afghanistan through Western eyes. And a lot of the media, a lot of the headlines that's going to be coming out is going to show, and I think, not that those tragedies aren't true, but I think the purpose of those stories is to turn the heartstrings of Americans who largely care about other people. They don't like seeing images of kids face down. They don't like to see videos of people falling from planes because they're trying to get out of the country. But a lot of the videos I saw the men crowding the airfield. I didn't see women and children crowding the airfield. I saw the men crowding the airfield. Fighting age males. Fighting age males were crowding the airfield. Why don't they pick up a weapon? And there's thousands of them there. Thousands! Right? Like thousands of people with weapons crowding an airfield trying to leave instead of fighting off an enemy. Something... And that's what's... It's one of the many things that's wrong with that country, and many things that's wrong with that culture. It's pragmatic. And over the last 20 years, the military-industrial complex allowed the Afghan people to act, and this is not an insult, to function like a parasite off of the government money. So the military-industrial complex got to fund multinational corporations, billion-dollar contracts, and I could go into depth on that waste, fraud, and abuse if you want me to. When we went into Afghanistan in 2001, the capital of the country, Kabul, had under 500,000 people. Today, it's almost 5 million. So in 20 years, that town grew 10 times. That doesn't happen. That tells you that a lot of people were dependent on the money that was there. Their economy was dependent on us being there. That's not a viable long-term national strategy. That is an opportunistic, pragmatic, exploitative posture towards a foreign power. And then whenever we leave, and we should, but not the way that Biden wants to do it, when we do leave, we leave all these people hanging. You invert Trump's plan. All right, so I want to talk tactical. We'll go operational, strategic, then biblical. Tactical, the Taliban control the country. At the local level, at the tactical level, the Afghan National Army, the Afghan National Police, basically anyone we trained has left or co-opted. It was not uncommon for me to see an Afghan who had multiple sons. One son would be in the police, one son would be in the army, and a couple sons would be with the Taliban. They'd hedge their bets, and that way whenever the whole thing crumbled, because they all knew it was going to happen, when the whole thing crumbled, they had someone in every area so they could say that their allegiance was there. Maybe this story will help clarify things. When I was a lieutenant, 24-year-old, I went to China, right outside of Manjay in Sabari district. I spoke to a dirt farmer, just a poor dude, they're all poor, farming dirt out in the middle of nowhere. And I asked him what his grievance was. Hey, what's going on? I mean, that was my job. My job was to go around and try to get people to like the government. How can the government give you money? How can we give you crap? Right? Like, we're the bad guys, so I can go kill them. And how can I give you stuff? That's generally what the mission was in my 24-year-old mind. And if you're saying, well, Jarrin, your 24-year-old mind was immature and you don't know, then think about the strategy that primarily relied on 24-year-old lieutenants to execute the policy outcome of the military strategy in Afghanistan. At the same time, whenever I spoke to this guy, he said that he favored the Taliban. I'm going, what? What you talking about? Taliban are the bad guys. He's like, Taliban aren't the bad guys. Taliban give us justice. See, Sharia law is swift and severe. People don't want to break the law because if they do, they get punished quickly and severely. From the average Afghan perspective, Sharia law is good. Western values, democracy, and justice system is bad. They don't like it because it's bureaucratic. They are used to decisive answers. It's kind of like how you and I are over here going, what's the deal with all this election fraud? Why aren't we getting decisions? Well, if this were Sharia law, and I'm not advocating that we have that by any means, because we wouldn't have elections if that's the case, Sharia law would cut through this crap and put bullets in people's heads right up front, because they have a godless perspective. They have a violent might makes right perspective, and that's not the United States. But this dirt farmer liked the Taliban because what America was propping up was a bureaucracy that was full of fraud. The issue was a patch of dirt that was inherited by him from his father, because his father just died, and the other guy, the guy that was claiming that land, which was owning to him, he said owned to him and his father, the other guy would just basically go to the provincial capital and pay the guy and say, hey, I want that guy's piece of land. And because the Afghan official was corrupt, and corruption's part of their, it's part of their thing. Like, you pay to play everywhere in Afghanistan. Because it was corrupt. Okay, sure. You want that guy's land? Pay. And it went back and forth. And so instead of getting any kind of finality in any decision, it was just this revolving door of, okay, I got to go pay the guy off so I can farm this land. And so America imposed a Western society, a Western way of thinking onto Afghanistan they never wanted. They never wanted, and is incongruent. You can't have America foisted upon you. America has to be organic, and we'll get to that here in a second. America has to be an organic response. It has to come from the people. It has to be a local-based idea, value system that actuates and manifests as political power. Operationally, the Taliban started taking provincial capitals around the country. The reason why that's important, most provincial capitals are going to have the comms equipment. They're going to have the military caches. They're going to have a lot of the supplies that we left our military counterparts. Because we think in terms of geography, this is the capital, this is the capital, this is the capital. And so we're going to stockpile stuff at the capital. But the Afghans don't care about the provincial capitals. But if the Americans are going to put all the valuable crap at the capitals, sure, yeah, let's take it. The Afghans don't think about that stuff. They don't care about the capital. They care about it if that's where all the stuff is that they need to steal, but they generally don't care about it. You understand that Sharia law is going to be done. It's going to be executed at the local level, the sheikh level, the spingiri level, the mullah level, like the local level. That's what it's going to be executed on. From a strategic perspective, you look at the geopolitics, I think that China benefits the most. Afghanistan is sitting on $1 trillion plus of minerals. Just a bunch of minerals in Afghanistan. Just a ton. Just one of the most mineral-rich countries in the world. Then you look at what the BRI is. The BRI is the Belt and Road Initiative. And this is generally what China is trying to effectuate. They're trying to create major superhighways. They're trying to create massive train railroads. They're trying to have a littoral navy, a coastal navy that basically creates a buffer around the South China Sea and all of Southern Asia. Essentially, China is trying to isolate Asia, the Asian landmass, away from the world. They're trying to control it. They want to control the billions of people that live there for human labor, capital, whatnot. And this is their plan to subvert the United States. So you think about what the United States has been doing when we recognize China, when we had the World Trade Organization realize China as a emerging nation. in the last 20 years, trade with China has outpaced everybody. China's economy is now greater than ours. From a strategic perspective, I think this is the beginning of the post-American foreign landscape. With Biden as a leader, you're not going to have the assertion of American military superiority. With America having its military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned us of back in 1959, America has overly relied on its military. And so other elements of its national power are weak. They're fatigued. They're atrophied. Our economy, our logistics, our manufacturing, they've all been outsourced. Most of our drugs come from China. Most of our manufacturing comes from other countries. Because we have so many laws that comes into insurance and tort and healthcare and all these other things that we've built in for ourselves, the cost of employing an American is higher than the cost of employing basically anyone else, especially anybody in Asia. And so because Asia can cut the cost because they don't care about people, because they're not Christians, and they generally don't give a crap about image bearers of God, they put them in sweatshops and crack the whip on them, line them up in concentration camps if they're getting out of place, and oppress them and subjugate them and exploit them for their labor and their work. And so as a result of that, if you don't have any personnel costs, you're at least taking 20-25% right off the top just because you don't have to pay your people worth anything. And that's where people need to start thinking. Your dollars are bullets, your prayers are nukes. Live local, support your local people, and hire an American, buy American. And this is what we have to do as a nation. We have to bring everything back and make it here, keep the money here, keep the wealth here, and become an exporter instead of an importer. I don't know if that's going to happen without a serious recalibration of national priority. That's why I preach the gospel, because the gospel changes minds. God changes hearts. He changes lives. Live local as a strategy, as an offensive strategy, refocuses people from the big multinational companies and the monopolies to the local mom and pops. It puts the focus back on where we can actually compete. But with Afghanistan going the way of the Taliban and China, they've already yoked up. China's going to recognize the Taliban, and I almost guarantee you the Taliban's going to start exporting its poppies. It's going to start exporting its heroin. It's going to start, because that was a big funder for the Taliban. That's how they made their money. Down there in Helmand province, where all the poppy is, 74% of the world's poppy comes from Afghanistan. It's just like the perfect growing area for poppy, and poppy is needed for heroin. So most of the world's heroin comes from Afghanistan. So look for that to become, a widely accessible commodity. But with, or I should say drug, not a commodity. When Afghanistan signs on with China, China's going to start building roads and railroads and stuff like that, and they're going to pull Afghanistan into the clutch. I don't think that they will try to militarily take over Afghanistan. I think they'll try to economically co-opt them because that's their strategy. That's how they're trying to work against the United States. So I see that happening on the strategic level. From the biblical perspective, this is where I want to tread lightly, because I want to tread lightly. If Americans aren't focused on Jesus, we are already in judgment. There is a good teaching. I don't have it, but I can replicate it really fast. You can go to Romans chapter 1, and God gives us 3 stages of giving a nation over to judgment. The first one is that God will give them over to, verse 18, 1:18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. So God exists, you just don't want God to exist, because that means he's in charge and you're not. But this is where God starts, if people don't fear him and respect him, God gives them over. Verse 24, there's a 3-step process for God to bring judgment on a nation. You tell me if this makes sense. God gave them up to their lusts in their hearts, to impurity, to the dishonoring of their bodies amongst themselves, because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed and forever. So people will have a sexual revolution. America had a sexual revolution in the 60s. Verse 26, that's the first one, is God, if you disobey God and turn away from God, God will give you over to a sexual revolution. We had that in the 1960s. Verse 26, for this reason, God gave them up to dishonorable passions. For their women exchanged natural relations for those that are contrary to nature, and the men likewise gave up those natural relations with women and were consumed with passion for one another. So you will have a sexual revolution, and then you will have a homosexual revolution. And then the third part is what? God gave them up to a debased mind. You know what a debased mind is? That just means craziness. It means stuff that's not true. It means, I can be a man, I can be a woman, LGBTQJJJC. It's all those things wrapped up into one. And so now we have a society that's garbage in its thinking. We have gone through the 3 phases. Now, there's a lot of people that will hear that and be like, well, Jarrin, we don't have any hope. That's not the takeaway that you should have. The takeaway you should have is, I have the opportunity to preach the gospel and to stand firm in the faith and truth in a world that is increasingly chaotic and anti-truth, which means that it really doesn't it's really not that difficult to be on the side that has clear thinking and it is bright line truth. It's very, very easy to know what's right and what's wrong as long as you're focused on the scriptures. And I guess that's my point, is with the fall of Afghanistan and the rapid deterioration of this, the message that America is sending foreign-wise, our geopolitical landscape, don't trust us. We're not going to be there for you. We're going to leave you. We're not, we'll give you a lot of money and we can take advantage of you, and then we're going to leave. And we're just going to leave you there. I think that, and these are just my thinking, I think that China will invade Taiwan. I think China will conquer Taiwan, quite frankly. I think China will assert its prowess and take over the South China Strait, the South China Sea, which is where trillions of dollars of goods pass through on naval ships every day. Or I shouldn't say naval ships, on merchant ships every day. I think that Russia will move further into Eastern Europe. I think it will try to start to reassert its dominance in places like Latvia, Estonia, the lowlands. I think that you will see a natural retreat of American military by Biden or Kamala Harris whenever they not impeach Biden, but 25th Amendment him out. And I think that if you consider what's going on, if you don't have Americans if you don't have Americans that are sober about what's happening, if people are only getting mad about all the bad stuff that's going on, then the people that are getting mad are the ones that we actually need to say, okay, sober up, push on, and figure out how do we get through this crap. Because if you're only always going to get mad about something, if that anger doesn't channel your passion or motivate you to build something constructively, then we have nothing. But I am hopeful and optimistic, quite frankly, because I think that most people see what's happening. I think most Americans see that. They just don't know what to do. They're civically uneducated. They are culturally incurious or uncurious. They're not like curious about how to figure things out and solve it. They've been spoon-fed political talking points. The Democrats and the Republicans and the legislation, they've been spoon-fed bad analysis for so long that critical thinking is something that they've got to get back going. This is why I preach live local. This is why I hammer live local. And I want to take an opportunity, see if this works. Oh, let me turn this off and do this. What? I'm going to try something. Here's one reason why I preach live local. All right, it's working. My mic's on. Everything's look at that. Look how awesome this is. The reason why you go live local, it starts with the preaching of the gospel, the death, the burial, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. That is God's chosen method to destroy worldviews. 2 Corinthians 10, we don't wage war according to the flesh. We wage war with divine powers that tear down strongholds. That's people's thinkings, beliefs, presuppositions. By doing that, you can actually convert the person. Not you, but God. You get a constitutional sheriff, support the Second Amendment. Get someone who actually understands the purpose of our freedom and our liberty is to make sure that we are able to conserve God's order. God's created order did not give man dominion over man. So the Second Amendment is our right, our enumerated right, to overthrow a tyrannical government. It's not to go hunting or to have guns that just allow us to do stuff. It's to overthrow a tyrannical government. The reason why this is important and the reason why this should be stressed is that if you need to be accurate and shoot well, you need to make sure you take those opportunities to do those things. If you're not, take steps. Oh, shoot. See that? I knew I was going to screw it up. Take steps to defend yourself. Organize locally. There's nothing unconstitutional about that. There's nothing illegal about that. The godless commies don't want you to do that, but there's nothing illegal or wrong about it necessarily. And you have to understand that that's the solution. That's what gave us our country. 1776 was not a national movement because it started from the top down. It wasn't George Washington motivating the whole thing, just like it shouldn't be Donald Trump motivating the whole thing. It was a wellspring of common people, a bunch of nobodies, who unified around ideas of, you are treating me bad because I read the Bible and it says that you shouldn't be doing this to me. And because I read the Bible and it says you shouldn't lock me down or force medical decisions or mask my kids or shut down my businesses or threaten me with being fired if I don't comply with my personal medical private decisions, you shouldn't be treating me like this. And the more people that think like that, the more people will actually start to resist and reject the way that things are. That's why I preach live local. You teach your kids to love the country. You teach them not to hate people according to their skin color. And then lastly, you shorten your supply chain. I'm going to put a lot of work. I gotta crush this thing, this field manual. It's more relevant and necessary now than it ever has been. Because, and this is my last criticism of everything. I've just been on it. I don't want people following celebrity leaders anymore. I want to reject the cult of personality. I want to reject the you're only going to follow someone because they're well known. You're only going to do what they say because you think that that's going to be a political outcome that benefits you. I care very deeply about the country. I care very deeply about defending the Constitution. There are people who have big platforms that don't necessarily, in my opinion, communicate the best for the country. They communicate the best for themselves to be continuing the ability to communicate that they can communicate. In other words, it's almost like there's this industry of people who have shows and are patriots and people pay attention to. I want the average American to be defended, provided for, have their Constitution defended, led, and motivated to do their part for their country. I don't want the focus to be exclusively on the popular people who draw the biggest crowds and get the cheers. Because at the end of the day, we will be cheering, having large rallies and cheering with people while these godless commies continue to siphon wealth, continue to destabilize the dollar, continue to buy real assets, continue to take away and diminish American influence throughout the world, realign priorities and relationships with countries that can better benefit themselves. And until we actually become serious about the threats that are real, and that is that many Americans actually hate this country. And so how do you solve the fact that legal citizens hate this country? How do you solve that? That's the issue we have to address. I care very much about election integrity. Amen. How do you engage people? How do you address the fact that people hate this country? I don't want a civil war at all. I don't want violence. I don't want that. Need to be prepared for it. Need to be ready for it. Not by my urging, not by my motivation, and definitely not by me initiating, ever. You never initiate. You always, always, always want to respond. But those are the things that we've got. We got a lot of big stuff. Thankfully, we have a bigger God. Thankfully that God is bigger than our problems. And this is why whenever I think about all the stuff that's going on, whether it's the emotions coming up from losing guys in Afghanistan or the frustration by me now going, well, I didn't have to kill guys. If we're just going to give the country up and it goes to hell, why do I have to send those dudes to hell? Why do I have to kill those guys? Right? Like, I think about all this stuff. I think about the little girls that are going to be kidnapped and brutalized. I think about the Christians that are going to be crucified. I think about all the people that worked with our government that are going to be just viciously slaughtered. It's not good. It's not good. There's not a good situation here. And I think that's another reason why we should be very slow to go to war, because Satan loves war. Once you commit to war, the only outcome is death. And even though Afghanistan had been on autopilot, there was eventually going to be a time when we weren't there. And it was at that time that now you're able to frustrate and complicate all those tensions and relationships and submerged emotions. You're bringing them all to the top. So Satan's exploiting it. And how are Christians told to respond to this? How are we told to engage the world? We are told to preach the gospel. We get the gospel from the Bible. We don't get the gospel from people claiming stuff that's not in the Bible. People want to say, I have this, find it in the Bible. God cares very much about his Bible. I think it's Jeremiah 3. I'm on the fly now. Jeremiah 3 is what I want to do. Nope, my brain failed me. Where God says he watches over the performance of his word. I forget where that's at. For some reason, Jeremiah 3 was in my mind. Yep, I don't remember where it is. But God cares very much about the performance of his word. He watches over it. Isaiah 3? Now it's got me bugging. The idea is that God cares very much about his Bible, and he gave us the Bible to make sure that we know he is who he is. Anybody can just say, they speak on God's behalf, but does it line up with the Bible that took 1,500 years to write, 40 different authors, multiple different languages, and that hyperlinks with itself, the way that it does? The death, the burial, the resurrection of Jesus Christ is the gospel. That's the only way to go to heaven. You and I have sinned. We broke God's law. Jesus took our place and died on the cross. That's why he was there. He died one time, not multiple times, one time. He was buried. 3 days later, the rock was rolled away. He came out physically. He was physically alive. He did that for two reasons, I think. One, to demonstrate to us that the resurrection is true. Jesus says in John, 11, he is the resurrection and the life. Jesus is the resurrection. He is the response. He is the victory over death. And the second thing is what I just said. He conquered the grave. He conquered sin. He conquered sin on the cross. He conquered death when he rose from the grave. As a Christian, I have nothing to fear. Zero. Bad stuff can happen to me physically, and I don't like that. But God says that if you're a Christian, you're going to be persecuted. And the bad things that happen to you are actually ways to glorify Him. Now, you might think, well, that doesn't make sense. If you think that, you need to have a biblical understanding of what God's purpose is. God wants glory, and God has chosen humility. God has chosen things that don't make sense to the rest of the world to glorify Himself. He could cause explosions and raise up armies and kill people on the battlefield, but that's not how He chose to get glory. He chose weak things, broken things, stupid things, seemingly stupid things to get the glory. That's how He chose to do it. I'm not God, so I don't get to choose. And so in so doing, you turn away from your sin, you believe the gospel of Jesus Christ, and you go to heaven. That's what God says, and I believe Him. I appreciate your time. You can find more information about me in the links below. This is my job, 100% listener supported, no corporate censorship. Come on, folks. Netflix is $15 a month. Cancel it. Hit that subscribe star. Put truth and patriotism, gospel preaching on autopilot. Appreciate your time. I'm Jarrin Jackson. God bless you. I love America. Now go to war.